is Shantae, and this is Bring a Folding Chair. BAFC is a talk series where guests come together to discuss diverse topics and the importance of bringing all seats to the table. Today's topic is the power of conversation from individuals to society. And our special guest is Robbie Atkinson, pronouns she, her. Robbie, I am so glad that you are here. And so can you tell our audience just a little bit about yourself?
Yes, surely. I have to say, starting off, that it is an honor. It's a pleasure to be here and be able to talk a little bit about my organization. I am the president and the founder of FIER, the acronym FIER, Foundation for Interethnic Restoration. I'm 27 years old, and we are not your average nonprofit. We're not a 501c3, we're actually 501c4, meaning we have lobbying power, and that's for farther down the line. But I have my team of researchers and our social media moderator and our whole board, and we're just glad to have this opportunity to talk about our mission and how we're impacting our community.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. So I hope you brought your folding chair. Let's get started. All right, so my first question is, what is FIER? Why was it founded?
FIER was born from mostly the year 2020, all the madness that happened that year, the demise of George Floyd, the xenophobic attacks against the Asian community, and the issues of police brutality against minorities, specifically the Black community, that came up. FIER is a nonprofit organization dedicated to addressing racial trauma and improving racial literacy. And what we do is we like to have conversations in the form of video streams, in the form of workshops, summits, things like that, to bring together different people from different communities. And this doesn't have to be some big executive of some CEO of some company, anything like that. We want, our acronym, interethnic restoration. The reason why we don't say interracial is because, technically speaking, there is no such thing as race. There's the human race, right? But there are different ethnicities, and we want to be a medium to bring all of those ethnicities together to talk about racial tension within society.
Wow, that's amazing. The name with, interethnic, I didn't really get why you put that instead of interracial, but that makes a lot more sense. And it's more encompassing too, because, if you think about it, people's ethnicities has a lot more like cultural backgrounds and bases and histories and things than going into maybe just saying race, which in a way you could say people are very, very, it's an uncomfortable topic, but also it has so much more, say, intersectionality if you're putting under race, and it can be so many things under one, but saying ethnicity has even more. It's much broader, and I really like that. So I really like what you guys are doing, and I very much enjoy that you're having that niche to help with racial trauma and racial literacy and just helping the community. So next question is about community. So FIER's mission is just very community based, and I'm seeing that you guys want to provide like safe spaces to discuss racial trauma, do racial literacy. Why are those spaces important? Why do you think we need to have these conversations on racial trauma?
What I observed, and this is my personal experience, when 2020 went by, I remember going to the internet, going to social media, and seeing people come forward and talk about their experiences, the discrimination they faced in the housing market, the comments that were made about their hair, about their eyes, different experiences. My own dad actually talked about how he had a government job. He worked for the governor, and he had times where he was afraid to drive through certain areas of Georgia. He wouldn't stop at the gas stations there because he knew just the vibe that he got, So long story short, people started to come out and talk about their experiences, and almost tantamount to the people coming forward and talking and sharing these experiences were the people who came out and said, well, I've never seen that, so that doesn't exist. And I've never heard about that, so it couldn't really be that big of a problem. You should be grateful, you should be a proud American, in the sense that there was this guilt tripping and this gaslighting and this invalidation and this silencing. And I felt that was part of, it became evident to me that that was part of the source of a lot of the racial tension that we have in society today, is the fact that it's not even so much that people don't want to talk about it, it's that people try to talk about it and they're silenced because there are those who are not comfortable or simply don't want to acknowledge it. I remember having friends talk about going to the hospital with their mother who was sick and she got surgery, and then she started to get cold and lethargic. And when she told the doctors, this is a Black American woman, when she told the doctors who were white American, they told her, oh, she's being lazy. Don't let her be lazy, make her get up and walk. And it turns out she had internal bleeding. And as my friend talked about this, she was crying. And a lot of people I saw when they came forward and shared their experiences, there was a lot of pain stemming from those experiences. And almost everyone that I saw talk about these experiences, if it was close enough to home, they started to cry. And to me, that told me that we need safe spaces to talk about our trauma and our pain, because if you don't, it sits down and it festers and it's brushed under the rug, and then it becomes internalized, and then it ends up spreading through different areas of society. It influences how you interact with people. It influences the laws and the rules that are made. Do you understand? Like, there is a lot about not having that safe space to open up, and not even just psychologically in terms of trauma, or emotionally, I should say, but also educationally. You know, we're dedicated to raising awareness about racial literacy and trauma. If we're saying that we want to bring people from different communities together, if we want to be inclusive, interethnic, right, cross-cultural, establishing that solidarity and that understanding, how can someone from a different walk of life feel comfortable coming to you and asking questions if they feel that they're going to be attacked and invalidated? So it's that safe space is important for everyone on every side, from every perspective.
Wow. Yeah, I can really appreciate safe spaces now. Well, on one aspect, I've just moved to Savannah, Georgia for a fellowship, and I'm from Atlanta. So it's just driving through, as you said, your father, how he just didn't feel safe stopping in certain spaces and knowing that, okay, I need to keep going, I need to keep going. I always feel that at certain times when I'm in Savannah, and even when I had an internship in like Virginia, it's like, I don't want to go any place by myself. I especially don't want to go any place when it's dark, especially really dark down here. And it's just like, I know that something could happen, or might not, something might not even happen, but it's just, you know, generationally, even just culturally, that things have happened, and you don't feel safe to be able to just do something very simple as, oh, I need to stop for gas, or, oh, I just want to go to a grocery store. Well, it's going to be dark, it's going to be late, and I don't want to have to be having those type of experiences. Just so I can understand safe spaces. I can understand it also in an academia type of way, where I've lots of organizations and associations that are just for certain type of ethnic groups have come into place due to, you know, 2020s, George Floyd, and just more things coming to light and being, you know, more open to other ethnicities and other types of people, and just seeing like, oh, I have people who understand what I've been going through. So safe spaces are important. Conversation in general is important, and it's very powerful. So how powerful do you think is conversation? How do you think it can really change our world in a way?
I think that conversation, I mean, it's actually very interesting because so I was, when I was in high school, I was very much into orchestra. I was into many different creative fields. And a lot of times I remember hearing children say that they may not have been very good people. They were never very good with communicating with words. They could communicate through artwork, and artwork was a way, playing the violin, drawing, playing the flute was a way to express themselves and make themselves be understood. I think that I draw on that expression or that analogy because conversation and just a little bit of mutual understanding between two different people can quite literally change your life. And I know from experience, for example, when I studied abroad to South Korea, I remember I used to attend this Korean church. So fun fact, I speak a little Korean. And
that's amazing.
Thank you. I studied abroad in Korea, and I kept up with it, and I ended up even getting a job where I was speaking Korean regularly. So I during my study abroad to Korea, before then I had attended a Korean church. And so when the Korean church sisters heard that I was going to Korea, they hit up their friends and they said, hey, big sister, my friend is coming to town. Can you take care of her? And basically, by the time I went to Korea for that purpose, I had a whole slew of people waiting for me, like to take me out to dinner and take me to church and all these things. And I remember one particular person. He was one of the church brothers, and he was showing us around, and we went out to Namsan Tower, and we went to all these places. And granted, back then my Korean was like 0 to none. My Korean was horrible. And luckily he spoke enough English to where we could understand each other. But what stood out to me was one day we went to church, and then me, him, and his father went to KFC, which, just shameless plug, KFC in Korea is next level. Like, not even Chick-fil-A here compares to like KFC. It's nice. But anyways, on another tangent, off that tangent, we were in KFC, and we were sitting there and we were talking, and somehow I mentioned something about Japan. And his dad had been very quiet this whole time. His dad didn't speak much English, or so I thought. He didn't speak much English. He didn't say much to me. When we were in the car the whole time, he kind of like looked at me through like the rear view mirror, and then he kind of like looked away. He didn't say anything to me. And then when we were in KFC and I mentioned Japan, his whole demeanor changed. And like you could see it in his eyes. And he sat there and he like looked out the window, and he just started talking, and his son started translating for me to English. And just by mentioning Japan, that little bit of area where we met each other in the middle, he started telling me about the impact of Japanese imperialism on Korea, and how he grew up seeing the lasting effects of it, and how damaged their society was by their presence. And he told me about the comfort women. And I don't know, in Korean they call it wianbu, but the comfort women of Korea and what they experienced and how deep a scar that left. So long story short, in Korean society, when they were occupied by the Japanese put out ads and statements saying, oh, women who are still here, your husbands are out fighting, come to our factories and you can make money. So a lot of families loaded their daughters and wives and things up onto boats, sent them over there. And when they arrived there were no factories, they were brothels. And oftentimes women as young as 15 would be put with like 40 men in like one day.
Oh, wow.
And they did that for a while. And then at the end of the war, a lot of women were shamed into silence. So some of them survived and just kept that secret, and they didn't talk about it until they were older. But long story, what I'm saying is he was telling me about this and how he saw how that impacted people in his life. And just that little bit of conversation changed his whole demeanor. It changed my perception of, honestly, I think Korean society, because it was very new to me, it was very foreign to me at the time, and I only understood them as a homogenous society. I didn't think that they could really relate to anything about American culture besides just maybe having an affinity for it because of their exposure. But hearing that as a Black American, even though my family is actually from Jamaica, so I'm first generation American, knowing the history of Black Americans here, knowing what they went through something like slavery, and then hearing what the comfort women of Korea went through and how there's a similar sense of oppression that they had because of what they experienced, it almost relayed this middle ground. It revealed this middle ground that I didn't even know existed. And at the end of the day, when he was done talking about it, I remember I have the picture, I can send it to you. His dad literally asked to take a picture with me. That little comment just opened up the whole floor. And he was very cold to me at the beginning of the day. By the end of the day, he asked to take a picture with me. He was very, very friendly, so. Conversation literally opens your eyes and allows you to not only have empathy, but have better perspective as to what someone else's experience is. And it goes two ways. It's not just about having someone talk all the time. It's about that exchange of talking and listening. It's about being seen and being heard. And that makes a huge difference in people's lives.
Yes, I love that last part you said of being seen and being heard. That's just the main important thing of having conversation, especially a deep conversation with somebody, is just at the end of it, you should feel seen, you should feel heard from that other person or that group of people. They should have even if maybe at first they didn't understand whatever your position is or whatever is going on, by the end of it, even if they still don't understand, they at least respected you by making you feel seen and making you feel heard. So that's amazing. And that's a wonderful story. Like, I also had visited Korea, not for a study abroad, just a trip thing with my school once. And we had interesting conversations, but I can't say at the end of it I had something very as deep and moving as yours. From also what you were saying, what came to mind was today I was listening to a webinar that I didn't watch the whole thing, but there was a part of it talking about generational differences in the workplace, and talking about how one thing me and my other coworkers were kind of joking about was like, they're like, holding hands, listening to each other, having conversation, understanding, from our boomers all the way to our Gen Z, Gen X people, how things have changed, how people of all ages are important, how everything, your conversation creates a creative and diverse workplace that makes changes and makes things better in the end, basically. So just having conversations with people, even in your workplace, and of people who are of different generations, even if it is, let's say, a homogenous ethnicity all in this one place, or homogenous experiences, really can make a difference, is powerful. So that came to mind when you were talking earlier. Now, my next question is back to FIER, is how does FIER plan to or currently create, open discussions about racial trauma? How are you having these conversations?
So right now we actually have a series, and so far they've all been recorded episodes that have been edited, but our upcoming discussion will actually be an Instagram live stream for people to just pop into and relay their feedback, talk about their experiences. But we have a series called FIERside Chat. And FIERside Chat started off as a collection of all of FIER's volunteers getting together and sharing their experiences. Our first episode was talking about being the only racial minority in the workplace. And we actually had a part 2 to that as well. And then our most recent posts have kind of alluded to an upcoming discussion that may talk about the Asian American experience in general, and sharing their experiences. One of our members is Muslim, and she talked about, like, in what the teaser will be released, but she talked about what it felt like to be Muslim after 9/11 happened. Do you see what I'm saying? And so that's a medium that we're using to foster those conversations right now. And this FIERside Chat series is more so a digital mini tester for larger summits that we would eventually like to have as we connect with local community leaders, local businesses, local nonprofits. And we also do have some in progress plans to try and collaborate with local artists. And I mean, we have singers, we have choreographers, we'd like to hold workshops, that kind of, and find a way to connect the arts to racial literacy, racial trauma, and that kind of awareness. So.
Yeah, I've looked at the FIERside Chats. They're wonderful. I was watching the part 1 and the part 2 of the workplace one last night, and I was just like, this is amazing. I was loving every second of it. So I really think that's a great medium you guys are doing, and I can't wait for any of the future ones you have. They sound very interesting and very important. Are you guys, so right now you're all digital, and that's very understandable. COVID, it's really the easiest way to connect with people of, various places around the country, around the world right now. Are you going to be trying to do things that are in person? Do you have a physical space and location where people will be able to have these discussions as well?
So right now, and as you pointed out, mostly because of the COVID pandemic, everything started off online. Like literally, we had a volunteer who was from Turkey, and she was in Turkey. We had people in
Wow.
Texas, and then we have a few people here in Georgia, and then we have people in New York as well who have all come together remotely. And so a lot of our work has been digital and virtual because of that. But I would like to have some of the workshops, some of the dance workshops that I'd like to set up would be in person, with local choreographers and dancers who are trying to establish themselves a bit more. And I would like in farther down the line for us to be able to have even say like a benefit concert. And of course that would be in person. We'd like to be able to have that in person. So right now, nothing, but in the future, keep your eyes open and you'll see that.
Can't wait then. Okay, so going back to the present, um, what are some of the initiatives that FIER holds dear? What are the things that, you know, uphold or the core of FIER? So you said, of course, racial trauma, but what are the core of FIER?
So one of the initiatives that we have had underway for a while was actually, and it's education oriented in the sense that it focuses on raising literacy in general. It was our Reading for Baby 0 to 3 initiative. And that was actually, it sounds like it's really out there and unrelated, but most people don't know that ethnic disparities or racial disparities actually influence literacy rate, and literacy rate dictates projected household income, mental health, and even incarceration likelihood. Normally by fourth grade, if a child can't read to a certain level, then they're more likely to go to prison. And children who come from certain socioeconomic backgrounds tend to have better vocabulary, so they go into school more prepared, so that sets them on a better track immediately. And like I said, there are ethnic disparities that are visible in that trend. So that is one initiative, like actual project that we have had underway, and we're still doing. But the general core of it is anything we can to bring together different communities so that they can talk to each other, because that has been the biggest, like when you really think about what has happened in America, even when you look back historically and see even the concept of integration was something that was very, it was pushed onto businesses, it was pushed onto people. And so you saw when there was integration, you know, everyone knows Ruby Bridges, she's still alive and she remembers getting rocks thrown at her while she was trying to go to school. There is a sense that people did not want to come together to talk about these things. People did not want to come together. So anything we can do from any perspective or any angle that is catching and intriguing enough for people to want to come sit down together and have that bond, share that moment as we open up the table to have these conversations. That really is the core of FIER. Because for now, we're focused based in America, but when you think about it, America is the most diverse nation in the world, but we are the one that has had the most notable racial problems, are we not? So
America has had some of the biggest impacts on other countries around the world. We've got our hands in everybody's pot, basically, even though we're one of the youngest, you know, big imperialist, whatever type of country, that we have had our hands in everything. But I can understand, you know, FIRE's initiative of bringing people to the conversation, bringing them to the table, opening it. That's kind of similar to the mission of Bring a Folding Chair. You want people to bring their folding chair to the table, have an enlarged table, and have everybody come and provide their input and provide their perspective on just something that interests them, something that affects them, something that you feel that needs to be heard about, you know, feeling seen, being heard again. So understandable, and I really do like what you guys are doing, and right now that's your initiative, but I can't wait to see, you know, future initiatives as you guys keep going. All right, so second to last question. What are some of the cool opportunities FIER has participated in so far? What are you excited that you have done already?
Ooh, so this one is fairly recent. I was actually invited to give a presentation to Kuka College in New York. And So one of my volunteers is a professor at Kuka College, and she really liked what our organization was about and what we were doing. So she opened up the floor and invited me to come in and give a presentation about the impact of diversity and homogeneity on just society in general. And that was like I said before, I had just dealt with the passing of one of our board members. Someone who's very dear and close to me. And so amidst all of that chaos, I was able to kind of pull everything together, put my presentation together, and I presented to these students. I asked a couple questions about them, and it was a predominantly, like, Kuka College was a predominantly white American population. And so being a person of color, being a Black person, giving a presentation to people who have a different perspective. I even did a poll at the beginning of the conversation where I had statements like, I don't see race, or discrimination and racism are not my problem because I don't discriminate. I had these statements there, and I had the students participate in the poll to see who agreed with what. And I gave a presentation that made an analogy between racism and what I call the bee. And it's funny because when I put this analogy together, I described it to someone, and we were up until like 1 o'clock in the morning, and the person was just like, they're not going to get this. This is too confusing. I was like, no, bear with me. So
I want to know this analogy.
Okay, so basically the analogy is that you have, and the analogy is based off of the statements that I had the students use in the poll. So the idea of I don't see race, or race is not my problem because I don't discriminate. So the analogy uses those 5 statements and has them embodied as a person. So we have 5 people in a room, and a bee flies into the room. Now, one person doesn't see the bee and isn't allergic, so they're fine. The person next to them sees the bee, is allergic, is reacting, is flailing, is scared, and the person next to them is just like, you're making a big deal out of it. To their right, they see this person. To their left, they see another person who sees the bee. They're allergic, but the person kind of doesn't really react. They don't really externalize it. And so they say, well, the bee couldn't be that bad because this person didn't act as exaggerated, so it's not that bad. The other people either see the bee or don't see the bee, but either way, they're not allergic, so their reaction is different. And the question I asked them was, how is the group impacted when people who are non-allergic cannot understand the struggles and the fear of the people who are allergic? And just the reason why I use that analogy is because allergies are not relegated necessarily to race. Now, there are some rare occasions. For example, Asian community tends to be more lactose intolerant, but that's different. What I'm talking about is anyone can be allergic to bees, and anyone can be fearful of bees, regardless of your race, color, creed, whatever. And having them step away from the idea of race and simply seeing a concept, a thing that involves fear and how people react to it, really allowed the students to step outside of their perspective and exercise more empathy. And I even had some students say, well, I'm allergic to bees, and I've been told that I overreact, but I'm allergic, and my fear is valid. And everything they said, I said, now you understand how people of color feel when they talk about racism.
Wow. Applause. That's a beautiful analogy. So relatable to people who just, have no basis of relation to things for Black people and other ethnicities, other cultures, whatever's going on. That's an easy way for them to have some conceptualization. And you just came up with that, late at night one night?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, that's so cool.
Thank you, gosh.
So yes, that seems like a really great opportunity that you're able to participate, and in New York, no less. That's amazing. Okay, I had a question, kind of following up. How did you get all of your volunteers? You said you have one in New York, one in Turkey, possibly you said Texas or something. But like, how did you get into contact with all of these people?
So we actually. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard a little something.
Sorry. Let me start over. So we actually went online because we because we had to do everything online due to COVID, I went online and I found all the databases where you can post volunteer opportunities with nonprofits online, and people will find them and they'll basically register, they'll do the interview process, you bring them onto the team. And so because it was born from the internet, we had people from all over the US basically apply. And it just happened that we had someone who was literally from Turkey in New York, flew back over to Turkey and then came back. We had just people from all different walks of life who really take to our mission and what we were about, and they just came forward and they wanted to be a part of it. So that's actually how we found them.
Wow, that's great. They just felt, you know, connected through your mission before you really have even done so much yet. You have so much in the future, and they already were like, I want to be a part of this. So
Yeah.
amazing.
No, it's really, really, sorry. Yes, it's really humbling, I think, because some of the people who came forward, like I said, one of our volunteers is Muslim. One of them is they're American, but they're of Indian descent, and they talk about the comments that they got about the clothes they wore and the food they brought to school. We have, of course, some Black American, and even having someone who's from Europe take interest, like it really, I think our group of volunteers really embodies that sense of inter-ethnic cooperation and collaboration that we're really trying to strive for. So even more so, my team is amazing. I'm very proud of them.
And I hope it keeps growing and you just get more and more of just a melting pot in a way of people and experiences and perspectives. I can't wait for your future. So about the future though, what are you most excited for in FIER's future?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question because of everything that I have in mind that I want to accomplish and what I want to do. Honestly, I think I'm excited for because before the pandemic, I had a number of connections to some artists, some entertainment fields, and I really want to bring the arts into this, mostly because, and when I say that, I mean like the benefit concerts that we could have. I mean the keynote speakers, because I have connections to people who are associated with like the NAACP, things like that. Being able to host events that bring together people from different parts of the world. Do you understand? And like for the benefit concert, the idea that I had in mind was a concert. Say we had a concert and we brought a K-pop artist. You may say, well, why K-pop? Because music is something where no matter where you come from, music unites everybody. And what unites us is much stronger than what divides us. And that is what I want FIER to also relay as we talk about these issues, that regardless of what you've been through, there does not have to be that divide. Does that make sense?
I severely get it. I am a huge fan of the arts. I do a little dance, that's about it. Nothing very special, but I love to support all of my friends who are artists, all of my all my friends who are artists in theater and art mediums, like, you know, visual art mediums and everything. And just because I understand that you can get that connection to people through the art, that you can understand things from just the art. Go to an art museum, like a physical art museum, and you look at the different art pieces and you're like, I don't understand, you know, maybe this person's background. I didn't have the experience they had. But if you look at their art, it just can give you a reaction in you.
One more thing I do want to put out there, in addition to like whatever artistic endeavors we could take on, at the end of the day, what I really envision is having workshops where we have people who, because you see, I think that what I have for FIER right now, I see a lot of younger people drawing towards it. And I think that's also a matter of perspective, the difference between the generations. What I would love to see one day is a large scale workshop where we have like different circles of people talking. We have our licensed counselors, because we do plan to pull those kinds of people in. Yeah, we already have one on our team, and having people sit down and talk about their experiences. And I'm not talking about just people from this generation. I'm talking about people from way back when, who grew up knowing that when they, because for example, I remember working in the classroom and having a teacher talk to me about how when she was a child, the Black students were not allowed to ride on certain buses. You know, the bus would ride past their stop, things like that. I want not just to reach the younger generation, but even the older generation, reach across the generations, having these people come together and share their experiences and have a moment where people from two different walks of life can have a aha moment and say, you know what, I've had it wrong this whole time. Oh, I understand. And oh, I understand. Like the people who really want to understand have that aha moment. And even people who may not have really went there with the intention to understand, even have that moment where they're like, oh, I really never thought of it that way. That moment when you present information outside of a perspective they even anticipated, and that life-changing moment, do you understand? That is what I'm excited for. Any event that we can do that has that impact as well.
Yes, yes, yes. All the yeses. I can understand wanting to have, you know, just generational or people of different ages and different walks of life all here, all experiencing, all being a part. That's one of the things I'm wanting to do for Bring a Folding Chair next, is having lots of different people who are a little bit older, maybe even younger, just all types of people coming and giving their perspectives. I'm gonna get there one day, but that's one thing I'm trying to do too, so I can understand that. Okay.
You got it. You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. I believe in you.
All right. So any last remarks? That was my last question.
Honestly, just again, it has been an honor to be able to participate in this interview and just share what FIER is about, allowing people to gain a bit of insight into what we're doing, where we're headed, what we want to achieve. Just shameless plug, if you guys would like to keep up with any of the activities that we're doing, if you'd like a newsletter, anything, we have a Linktree link on our Instagram profile, literally at FIER Atlanta. And all of our social media handles have that exact ID. You can find us, reach out to us, share your experiences. If you don't want to go in front of the camera on, say, our fireside chat, share your experience. We can talk about it. We can have discussion about it. Like, come as you are and talk about, let your heart out. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Come as you are. All right. So thank you, Robbie Atkinson, and Foundation for Interethnic Restoration, or FIER, best acronym ever, for being today's special guest and bringing your chair to the table. You really brought it. You have just given me so much information about your organization and all the things that are important, and I just can't wait to see everything that you have in the future. Can't wait to watch more Fireside Chats, and one day go to that benefit concert. Just be there. I can't wait. So for my audience, as usual, I'll be putting links to any of the major things that we have discussed in our YouTube and Instagram description. BAFC has a lot of content planned for the future, so be on the lookout. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at bring_a_folding_chair, longest handle ever, and on YouTube at Bring a Folding Chair. If you have any suggestions of topics or guest speakers, go to the suggestion box, which is in the link in our bio. I'm so grateful y'all are watching, and I'm grateful Robbie was here. So peace.